Hi, I'm Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Christy, and we work with Globe International.
Working with missionaries, we hear stories of the struggles, the humor, God's goodness, and a little side of crazy.
Hey, that's who we are.
This is Crazy Missionary Stories.
Hello, and welcome back to Crazy Missionary Stories. Today we have Juanpa and Wendy Rodas with us, who are missionaries in Guatemala. And they have been there for 7 years. Will you guys tell us, what have you been doing? What are you doing right now in Guatemala?
Well, we are Guatemalans, and we are serving our people in Guatemala. We work with the community that we live in. Mostly we can contact a lot of people who are serving the community, like community leaders and pastors. We also do pastoral training through Global Action. But mostly, once we have started working with the community, we will start creating a relationship with the families. We like for them to get to know who we are, and that way we can also find out their needs and all of it just for us to be able to share the gospel eventually. That's not the first thing we do when we start working with the families, because we don't want it to be abrupt. We want it to be the result of the relationship, the result of us being part of their lives. So we have built many houses in the community that we live in. We would call them houses, but they're not really houses compared to the standards of the United States. Yeah. But compared to what they had before, it's a big difference. A lot of families in Guatemala, there's a high rate of poverty, many single moms, a lot of children. And so we see the poverty, we see the corruption and the need and everything, but we know that as Christians, we know that the root cause of all the things that we see in the community is sin. And even if we give a person a new home, or we provide food bags or a stove, it's not going to change the root. It's not going to change their life either. So our objective is, we do all these humanitarian things, you might say, but our purpose really is to be able to share the gospel, because even if their reality in this world doesn't change, their eternity will change. And so for us, those two things are very important. The relationship that we can have with the families, with the people that we serve, but also being able to help them understand their need for Christ, their need for the gospel. And so basically, with that in mind, we build homes, we provide monthly food bags, we do a monthly Bible study with women. Most of them are single moms. Juanpa is in charge of taking care of the kids while we're doing the Bible study, and that's quite a thing, because we have approximately 24 women that come to the Bible study, and all these women bring their kids, so it's about 3, sometimes 4 kids per woman. Wow. So he has a bunch of kids.
Oh, wow. And you say these are single moms too?
Most of them.
The kids probably love having a male role model there who's involved with them. That's
they just climb on top of him and pull his beard, and I mean, he has to exercise all his patience and love in that period of time. But it's such a beautiful thing, because with that monthly time that we spend together, the women really open up, and we study the Bible together, and then we'll do something fun, like a craft or like a beauty spa thing with them, and do their nails, or just to make them feel loved. And that it's immediate, and it's incredible the way they open up and they start sharing about their lives, things that they would never share in a normal relationship. So we love what we do. It's been quite an adventure, because as Guatemalans serving in Guatemala, people would say, well, where are you going? God is calling you to be missionaries. Where are you going? Like, we're not going anywhere.
I'm curious to know, how did you get started in all of this? So 7 years, and you in Guatemala. So how did you guys get the call to missions?
It's a long story, but I'm gonna try to do like a super short because in Guatemala, even though you have like a degree, it's difficult to make a living. For me, the Lord start in my side because I all that time I say if I have like a work and have a health, I'm okay with that. But before came to the Christ,
Okay.
and the Lord need to be like he need to crush and break my heartstone. And during that process is like during 3 years, I don't find a job, I don't find nothing.
Wow. For 3
But I
years.
need that because he need to remove all my. Even he's still working. I'm super dumb. I'm super
Stubborn.
s- dumb, stubborn, and super like how to say like a proud.
Proud.
I have a lot of proud before like I can do this, I can do that. But the Lord need to remove everything, every single thing that I.
So basically, you say he's been crushing you then.
Yeah, for sure.
Circumcising his heart.
Yeah, yeah. Like for me, is I had that image in my mind. Like when they need to have the olive oil, when they need to crush even the pit, he do that to me like that.
So, how did that come about? How did you hear about Christ?
The Lord used her.
So, could we hear that story?
Yeah, how you came to know the Lord.
Well, it's interesting because we are both, I always say this, that we're broken vessels, you know?
We all are.
The Lord used our life and our past to bring us to a point where we really became aware of our brokenness and our need for Him. And so we met in university. But then years later, when we started actually talking and dating and everything, he was here in the U.S. Because, like he mentioned, it was really hard for him to make a living in Guatemala, and he had had really bad experiences. And I was in Guatemala. I had gone through a very bad divorce, abuse, and many things that were really hard. And it was me and my kids. And I had thought, like, I'm never going to get married again. It was really bad, so why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
And so when we started talking, when we started a relationship, it was a long distance relationship. And so then he started suggesting, we should get married.
You weren't even living in the same area.
We
It was
weren't
all
even-
long distance at that point.
It was all long distance, which was good because there was no pressure for anything until he started talking about marriage. And then I was already a Christian, but the Lord brought me through to Christ through my divorce. You know, as women, I feel we tend to put our husbands, our partners in a position of sometimes like my life is based on him, on this person, and my worth is on that person. And so for me, going through that divorce, had been really painful. It had broken every expectation, every idea that I had about, that. So I had no more expectations, and I had just surrendered my life to Christ. I said, God, I can't do this. I don't have a husband. I have these kids. I need a husband. So I need you to be my husband. And he was, I think that it was a beautiful encounter of God saying to me through Isaiah, like, I am your maker. I am your husband. I will take care of you. And it was beautiful. So, but I was a baby Christian, you could say. I was starting to grow in my faith. And I think the Lord called us both to ministry at different points of our life without us realizing it. Because when I felt the call, it was many, many years. At the beginning of my Christian walk, I had lost my job because of problems that I had with my ex-husband. And so I had no money. I was struggling to pay rent and all that. And someone invited me to translate for a mission group. And we went to the Guatemala City dump in Zone 3. And if you know a little bit about the background of the Guatemala City dump is located in the center of the city, pretty much. It is a dump, it's huge, but a lot of people live around it. and they live and work in the dump. So they go and they separate trash, but they feel like trash because they've lived all their life there. And so we went there to bring the gospel. I was translating for the team. And we were handing out coffee and sandwiches. But as I was getting ready to go on that trip, I told the Lord, like, you need to be my husband, right? And I was in this kind of like a situation of, poor me. I don't have a husband. How am I going to raise my kids alone? You know, God, you didn't, why didn't you do something to save my marriage? And I was in this pity, just feeling pity for myself and just, you know, and God took me there. And there was this moment that I remember clearly, the Lord just kind of like slapping me on the face like that. And it was, I was walking, handing out coffee, and I saw a woman at a distance amidst all the trash. And she had a baby on her back and a toddler walking right next to her. And she stopped, and I don't know why my eyes were just so focused on her, but she stopped in the middle of that and picked something up from the ground, kind of cleaned it up a little bit, cut it in half, handed the baby on her back a piece and the other one.
Wow.
And it was something that was on the floor.
Yeah.
And that moment, it crushed me. Yeah. It was like God saying, are you in that situation?
Yeah.
Like, and I just realized, like, I've been here whining about my situation, complaining, and there are people who have it really harder.
Yeah.
Their situation is harder, way harder than mine.
Yeah.
So it was like God saying, get up, stop complaining, do something about it.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a moment of just realizing what God was calling me to. And so I came back home with the fire in my heart. But that was years before we ever started anything.
Really?
And then when we were dating, long distance, he says, let's get married. And I was like, sure, let's get married. But you need to come here to Guatemala. And he's like, no, you need to come here. And it was this, you know, and so I was like, okay, I'll go to the States and I'll see if we could do that.
So you lived here in the States for a time then?
I came for like about 2 months, just for us to figure out, okay, can I find a job? Can I do this? Can I do that? You know, and it was very clear how the Lord said no. Because we were here and I had like a vision, I would say. I started imagining in my head what would happen if we overstayed, how it would become an illegal situation in a way. And I just felt this, I don't know, just fear. And when he came back, I said, look, I love you. And I really want us to be able to do this, but I can't do this. I'm going back home. And you can choose to come with me or stay. And he said, because I said, you know, God showed me that. And he responded with his macho attitude, you know. If God shows me, if God tells me that we need to go back to Guatemala, then we'll go back to Guatemala.
Because that time I'm super baby, newborn Christian. And in my mind, I think they're gonna say, Juanpa, you need to move to Guatemala or something like that.
Yeah.
Even with that, it's like we open the Bible like
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 people
a
who are
dumb people.
ignorant, you know.
We open the Bible like this and point. I don't know why I do it like
And
that.
he did it. He did it. He was the one that, okay, so I said, let's pray and let's read the Bible. And he grabbed the Bible and he opened it
like
and
this
just
and-
put his finger. And it was Deuteronomy 30,
6.
verse 6. There's a part where it says, and you shall return to the land of your parents.
Yeah.
And it was, and that's a
God meets you where
crazy
you are.
thing.
And that for me, I say, maybe we need to read another one.
He was like, you prepared this. And I said, you opened the Bible.
Yeah, because I don't wanna like accept it.
Yeah.
And the next day in the morning, my mother-in-law called us and say, "Hey guys, how are you? I'm thinking of you guys. I'm praying for you, but the Lord put me. You need to read.
Put in my heart,
Put in my heart. You need to read like a."
Deuteronomy 30,
The exact verse.
the exact chapter. And it's interesting because at that moment when he pointed out to the Bible, it was just that verse, you know?
Yeah.
We didn't really pay attention to the
The surroundings.
context of the script of the entire chapter. If you go to Deuteronomy 30, it talks about God. It's God telling the people of Israel, I pretty much I lay before you two paths. You can choose death, you can choose life. And he says, if you choose death, if you do all these things, you're going against my will. And if you choose all these things, if you choose to obey my word, if you love me with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, if you put me first, if I am your God, then I will bless you with all these things. And it talks about prosperity and everything. And so we weren't really, and it talks about the circumcision of the heart.
But I don't put attention on that. I put attention more on the prosperity.
So he was like, okay, if
Let's
God says
go.
that if we go back, we'll be prosper, then let's go back. And so we went back to Guatemala. And like he's mentioned, the first few years were really hard.
We don't have a car. Everybody in the
Bicycle.
bicycles. And the traffic in Guatemala is horrible.
I thought I was gonna die every day. And the girls were tiny, and they were riding their little bikes and to school.
Even Sammy, the little one, the one that they use the helpers, the little
Like your
The wheels, the
the
training
wheel,
wheels.
the training wheels.
Wow.
It was crazy. But those first years were hard, and I was like asking the Lord because he was mad.
Yeah.
He was like, why did God bring us here if we're just struggling so much, you know? And I would pray to the Lord and I would say, Lord, you brought us here, so you have to show up in some way. And he was there.
Yeah, but during the process, we saw a lot of miracles. Even like many days, I said to Wendy, I want to disconnect the fridge because we pay more the electricity for that than what we have inside. We don't have nothing.
Wow.
And Sammy, the middle one, she loves milk, and always when we went to the supermarket asking for milk, and we don't have the money to buy milk. And like I remember one time somebody knocked on our doors, and when we opened, there's nobody there. There's like a supermarket, groceries there.
Wow.
And then another time, a friend of us, but not super close.
She didn't know what we were going through.
And she called, where you at? We are here in the apartment. Because we live in a super itty bitty apartment. And she said, call Juanpa. I don't want to go at that time, right? Because in that time, it's some days, because difficult to handle that. As a man, you don't provide.
Yeah.
It's super difficult.
Yeah.
You don't have a work. But I need to surrender him and everything.
Yeah.
When I learned that, everything started to change. But the Lord needs to be like super clear. Like you need to do this. You need to pass.
You were
that.
just faithful in those beginning years, just to continue doing what the Lord was telling you to do, even though you had nothing.
Yes.
So what did life look like? Did you have jobs, or that was actually you were doing some ministry at that time?
I had a job. He was doing everything in the house. He was taking the kids to school. He was cooking. He was cleaning. I was working. But I mean, you need to understand how hard this is for a man.
Yes.
More in that culture.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
specifically more
as
in
a
our
Latin
Latin
people,
American
yeah.
culture. I mean, he's the man, you know.
Provider.
And he was doing all the things that would make him feel like I'm not doing my job.
Yes.
And so, but he is, and I think a lot of men are very proud of, and as human beings, I think we tend to be like that as well. Like, I have this job because of my ability, my capacity,
And my career.
because I'm so smart, because, you know, but it's not like that ever. It's never about our ability or our capacity, or it's about God. God is always the provider, and he's always providing through that job, through, I mean, he gives us gifts, and he uses those gifts to also provide for us, but it's not about us. And I think for him, clearly God knew what he was calling us to. But he needed to teach us certain things before he was ever able to use us. And it was really hard for Juan Pablo because he would cry
Yeah.
and say,
Every
like,
single day,
I'm going
every
back,
hour.
I'm going back to the U.S. You know, I can work there. I can make money there. And
But the Lord remind me, no, you need to be obedient.
and so we
He
stayed.
just crushed you,
Yes.
like you said, with the olive, just even to the pit, just really
Like when it's
crushed
like,
you.
when that happened,
Yeah.
then is what say the Lord, now you're ready.
And what did that look like when you were ready? Then what happened? What changed?
That is a very interesting because after that we start like have like
business.
a business. We have like a partner here in the States. That he had a furniture stores, and we make the furniture in Guatemala. At the beginning, we have like a different carpenters, but because we start getting busy and busy and busy, we have our own like company, like big company. We open like the wood shop, and we have a lot of workers there, and we start working because we know the pace of that. We go and help and serve more. We call like a part-time, but sometimes we serve 3 weeks a month or more.
Because he was in charge of the business, I was able to stop working. And the girls and I, we would
And that
go
will change.
and serve with other ministries.
The economy changed.
translating.
That will go like a better level.
Yeah, our business thrived. Everything was going really well, and at that moment, we both felt like God is calling. God is calling us to ministry, to do this full time. But like, why would God call us in the middle of our best time? Our business was thriving. We were doing really good. Like, aren't we able to give more, to serve better if we have this provision, you know, from our business? Still, once again, God reminding us, it's not the business.
It's not you.
It's not you. And
It's
so
me.
Wow.
while our business was going up and up and up and up, and we were investing on machines, on wood, on all these things, all of a sudden, our partner goes
Because always when we go and
missing, completely.
serve, we say always, we love to do that. But maybe later when the girls they're already done college or university, but the Lord put it in our heart, but we don't put attention. The Lord say, go ahead. And because we don't do the step, the Lord will say, okay, you wanna do the step? Okay,
Close the door. Yeah.
I can push you a little bit.
Yeah.
And he did. He took
He
that
did.
that partner away.
When we had invested so much and we had all this wood, all of these
Leather.
pieces of furniture and all of this leather, it just went down the drain. And so we had 3 months to put everything in order, to like pay the workers in Guatemala. You can't just let them go immediately. You have to give them 3 months notice. And so we had to give them 3 months notice, make a way of like figure out how to get like pay rent of the business, pay their salaries
For 3 months.
for 3 months, and make sure that we would not have debt. We had huge debt. Like it was a lot. And then we were like, okay, I mean, I guess the Lord was calling us to ministry. And now it's just like everything that we were using as an excuse to say no,
Now was against you.
it was completely gone. So it was like, I guess that's what we're going to do. And so we became missionaries, independent missionaries, through an umbrella organization. We got certified and everything. And then the first month that we raised support, we had $25. And we sat down and we cried. Cried because someone had trusted us enough to give us $25. But at the same time, we cried because, I mean, there's no way we were going to pay rent and all those things with $25. But, I mean, now that we look back, I can't even, I don't even know how we survived. But we did.
Yeah.
God has been so faithful in providing for every need, and to even take us places. We're here, and the Lord allows us to travel every now and then so we can visit our supporters and just, you know, I mean, I can't even explain how, but He's done it all. And I mean, I think one of the things that we always, when we talk about our story and we share it with people, we say, like, you know, God is calling us all to do some kind of ministry. You know, maybe not everybody's called to be a missionary, but we're all being called by Him, you know, to surrender our lives, just like it says in Deuteronomy 30. Like, you should go and read that and choose between two paths. We can choose to follow Him and His will for our life, or we can choose to do our own will. Sometimes our own will seems pretty attractive because this is all I want to do and this is all that I want to be. But He knows better.
Yeah.
He knows best what He made us for. And I mean, choosing Him, choosing to be obedient to Him has been the best decision of our life. Like, we look back now and see how God has been our provider, has made us better people, in recognizing our role. It's not about us, it's all about Him. Seeing how God uses our ministry, not because we're good, because we're not, but He chooses to use broken vessels like all of us. And when we host teams in Guatemala and we see the work that God is doing in our people, the people that we serve, but also in the people that have come to in our teams, it's like, wow, I mean, we have a really great position. We have a front seat row in seeing the work of God. And that is the most amazing thing, you know?
Yeah.
We're so unworthy, and so
Useless. Even
Yes.
with that, the Lord.
but He uses us.
Yeah, I love your story because really it's God just showing you, taking you to that broken place and taking your brokenness and saying, look, I am the one who's going to bless you. I'm the one who's going to do it. You don't have to do, I'm going to do it. I'm going to provide. And just using, even in your brokenness, using what you lived through to then turn it around. And that's the ministry you're actually doing for other people. But not only that, you're receiving teams. And like you said, you're having five teams that are
When
going
we
to
come
be coming?
back.
Are they
Go
all coming
back
from
to
the
work.
States, or
Yes.
They're all
also
coming from the States.
So
Wow.
5 teams from the States, and you said that you were at a church this weekend, and 3 people that had been on a team got baptized.
Yeah, so we had a team before we came here. We had the biggest team we've ever had, 19 people, and it was great. And this last weekend, 4 of them got baptized, and we were like, I mean, seeing that shows you. I mean, this is why we do what we do,
Exactly.
and that's what God does.
Yeah.
And it's such a privilege to be part of that.
Yeah, I love it because you're ministering on both sides. You know,
Yeah.
in Guatemala, and then the North Americans that are going down are also, they're ministering, but they're also being ministered to at the same time. The Lord is just
Yeah, because the Lord working double ways
And ministering to us as well, because
every single
we still
day.
continue to grow
Oh yeah.
and to learn more, and that, I mean, just He continues
Yeah.
crushing us and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
to show us.
We are under construction.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
So when a team comes and visits, what does that look like? What do they help you guys with?
So we have several projects that we can do with teams. Always with the same community that we serve, always with the people, and we're always bringing new families in. Like now that we've been doing this for a few years, you know, people know. So people come to us and say, oh, there's this family who needs a home, or there's this. And so Juanpa and other people that serve with us in Guatemala, they will go and visit these families and try to figure out, okay, is this story true? Because, you know, a lot of people would, and, you know, this is how it is, our human nature will want to take advantage of the support sometimes. And so we need to make sure that that goes to the right people, the people that need it the most. And so they do a lot of research before. They visit the family several times. They ask around. They like to make sure. And then when a team comes, they'll say like, oh, we want to come and we would like to come this week. And like, we would like to build a house or 2 houses. Or we want to provide food bags and do home visits. Or many
Stoves.
times a team will come and say, what do you guys need for us to do? And then we'll say, well, you can build a house, you can do this, and you can help with the ladies ministry, like whatever, and they will decide what they want to do.
Because we have a list, like a waiting list for getting a house.
Can you tell us how much would it cost to build a house there? You're saying a house, and it's not a house like a U.S. style
Yeah,
house.
it's kind of like for you guys, it's like a mini storage. It's 16 by 12, but outside we put like a open, like a L, open another tin that we put the stove. They can have outside, and they don't. Even with that, they have like a chimney. They don't have the smoke in their lungs because that was a big problem in Guatemala. I think in Latin America because a lot of people die because they leave their
inhaling.
open fire during the night, and when they have the smoke, and they die.
So building a house costs $2,500
For a whole house.
for a whole house with the stove.
Wow.
And then
And that one we can build in one day,
Wow.
like the 8 to 14 people in one day. Like start like 8:30 to 4
And that
p.m.
changes somebody's life. that
Yeah,
does.
because you can see there are a lot of people that they have only like a cardboard walls or plastic things, and their beds is like 2 pieces of block, 2 pieces of like boards, like a wood boards. That was their beds.
Wow.
And when they try to get up under of them, they have a lot of water. For that reason, we put like a concrete ground, 2 rows of block. And that was already when the team come,
it's already
and
prepared.
it's already prepared.
So you do the foundation
Uh-huh.
essentially.
And when the team come, we do the framing and we put like a metal pieces like as a walls and the roof too.
Wow.
So once a family is chosen to be able to have one of these homes, do you guys keep up with them? And
So we visit them monthly. We try to bring a food bag every month. A food bag costs around $38. It has rice, corn, oatmeal, beans, and oil. That will last about 2 weeks for a family of 5. So we try to visit on a monthly basis and bring a food bag. The women can come to our Bible study. And we just try to keep in touch with them. When the teams come back, they can come and visit them again. And we try to just stay in touch, keep coming, keep going there. We eventually also want to start doing things with men. With men, it's harder because a lot of the families that we work with, they're single moms with their kids. So the population of women is higher than the population of men.
Because we have that mentally like the macho man. I don't need the Lord, or I don't need God.
And each team looks different because like each team wants to do different things, but usually they'll come from Saturday to Saturday. We'll have church on Sunday, fellowship together. And then Monday, Tuesday, usually build days. Wednesday, we'll do home visits. They'll get to meet many of the families that we serve with. Thursday will be their day off. And then Friday, we'll go back to the houses that we built. We'll bless the houses. We'll pray for the families.
Dedication of the houses.
Many of the teams, once they've gotten to hang out with the family, they want to go and buy like
Bed.
toys for the kids, or so when
Some
we
people
go back,
beds.
so when we go back to dedicate the houses, they'll bring gifts for the family, and then Saturday would be a going back home day. It just flies by. And we have other teams that do different things. We have a ministry that we partner with that they make knives. They're knife makers. So they will do knife presentations during the week where they share the gospel in the process of making a knife, which is also very cool. So, I mean, it depends on the team, what we do with them, but basically it's that.
Do the teams typically come from churches that support you guys? Is that how they hear about?
Well, so we don't really have churches that support us per se. We are independent missionaries. So many of the teams that come because someone from another team already came with us, and they'll go and they'll tell their church, like, we went to this mission trip and it was great, and so they'll ask their mission, the people in charge of missions in their church, can they come and speak? And so that's when we go and visit a church. And we'll speak about it, we'll talk about what we do, and then that church will have the opportunity to bring a team if they want to. I mean, it's become kind of like an organic thing, a thing that has happened, because at first when we started, we had no idea what we were doing, really. God just kind of said, okay, you go into ministry, you know? And so we had to figure out how to do this, you know?
But the Lord put everything like a puzzle. Like,
He creates these connections, like just being here with you guys today is, it was a God thing, you know? And so now we come and visit the church every time we come. And it's those divine connections that He makes. We've prayed a lot about that. Like, God, we want to be very intentional about the people that we partner with. And we want it to be you. We want it to be God opening the door, not us choosing where we want to go and what to do. And He has done that. Sometimes we're, at first, especially at the beginning of the ministry, we were like, we have no idea what we're doing, and how are we going to connect with people in churches, and we just had to wait. He was going to do it eventually, little by little, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious because just you guys being Guatemalans, ministering in Guatemala, that brings its own set of difficulties. How part of it for Globe, and you're not Globe missionaries, but I love what you do, and I think there's so much that we can learn from you guys. How can, like, we want, our heart is to see nationals doing exactly what you're doing. Like, how can we partner with that sort of thing? How can we help, like as an agency or just in general North America? How can we help encourage the missionaries, like in Guatemala, that are Guatemalans serving Guatemalans or Africans serving Africans? How can we partner to help you guys do the things that God has called you to do, and be a blessing to you?
The truth is that at first, when we were called, why would God do that? Then pandemic hit, and that opened our eyes. That made us realize, oh, this is why. Because during the pandemic, we saw in Guatemala, there are a lot of ministries and there are a lot of missionaries. Most of them are foreigners, Americans, coming and doing their ministry in Guatemala, which is great. The Lord has used that tremendously. But when the pandemic hit, we saw,
you would say, time to go home.
and many left. And many of them had their ministry, like land and their the areas where they're serving, and people dependent on them, and they were leaving and going back, coming back to the States, which is, I mean, understandable. I think the pandemic made us see a lot of things that we were unaware of before. How scary it is to be in a situation like that. And I understand also being in a situation like that in another country. You have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea if you're going to be able to go back home with your families, you know, so that's hard. But when all this happened, we were like, we're not going anywhere because this is home for us. This is home and this is ministry, you know. And so we saw many of these ministries that were going home asking us, can you help us buy
Because we start to making
grains.
food bags. And the Lord put everything. He opened the door, the because during that time we have like a curfew, and we have like a, they don't, we call our state, we call departamentos. They don't let you from one state to another state to go because,
Without a permit.
and the Lord opened the door because the Lord provide a permit, and we can roll over the entire country.
So
Even
we
with
were-
that, we start like making food bags, and we start like during that time, I don't know how I know it's the Lord, but they find my phone number and start calling me from villages
That they needed
that
food.
they need a food bags.
Yeah. Wow.
And
so they were calling you looking for food.
yes, and ministries were saying, people were sending us money to buy food bags and saying, well, you deliver them. And these ministries were saying, hey, can we send you the money so you can deliver to our people?
Site.
And so we were doing that. I mean, we delivered a bunch of food bags, and we saw that. But it helped us understand that things are shifting in the world.
Yep.
And the Lord used a lot of missionaries, foreign missionaries, to go to other countries before. And now God is using the locals to do the work, because things that are happening in the world, and it's just changing. And like the pandemic was just a little
A taste.
taste of what can happen in the future too. But God will not allow his work to stop.
Yeah.
He is using people. And I think one of the things, like you were asking, how can we help? Well, I think that it is important to understand that ministry works a lot better if we use the local people, if we use people that are inside, because locals understand their country, their culture better than foreigners. Many times people bring great ideas from another country, but that isn't applied. It doesn't work in Guatemala. Like when we build houses, a lot of times we have people who are great builders here in the U.S. And they're like, Juanpa, why don't we do this? Why don't we
I
do
say,
that?
okay, try it.
But
Let me know.
But it's not possible in Guatemala. We don't have the same tools.
Yeah.
We don't have the same. Here, everything is so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in Guatemala, you do what you can do with what
We
you
don't
have
have
available.
inspections there.
Yeah.
So this understanding of working together
Yeah.
is so important.
Yes.
People, ministries that are working in Guatemala or in other countries need to understand that you need to empower the locals to do the work that you're doing in ministry.
Yeah.
The foreign missionaries cannot be essential, because when things like the pandemic happen and they have to go home, which is understandable, ministry has to continue, and the locals can do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So for us, I think that was important. And then the other thing is, a lot of ministries, like for us, becoming missionaries in Guatemala was almost impossible at first, because
It's a lot
Is there a mission agency in Guatemala for Guatemalans?
doesn't
There's
exist.
not.
Even for our government, we are like unemployed.
we are unemployed. There is
You're
no
unemployed according
yes,
to your government. Wow.
yes, because
Doesn't exist.
it doesn't. That missionary does not exist.
That line is, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And like a Guatemalan families is almost 0.001%.
Most of the families that are serving in Guatemala and have locals, it's because one is American or a foreigner,
they hire-
is married to a Guatemalan. But then two people that are,
Both Guatemala.
that's hard to find.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, when we create opportunities for these people to go and serve, being able to find an umbrella organization that would accept us as Guatemalans, that was huge for us. And for them trusting us and for them providing the support that they offer is huge. But that's not the common thing. You don't find it easily.
At the beginning, when we tried to find, when we called, they say, "Oh, can you send me your
Social security number."
No, we are Guatemalans. Okay, you can.
Yeah.
And like it's difficult to find, but the Lord provided the spot.
Yeah.
Yes. And then if you, I mean, I think it's also important that if you know of missionaries that are natives of the country that they're serving, and you see the work that they're doing, that you are willing to support them. You know, because it's really hard. Most of the times here in the US, for example, when a person decides they're going to go into ministry, they'll take a year to raise support for that following year. For us, that was impossible.
Every single day.
It's you don't have the time to raise that support. You don't have the means to do it. And also, it is truly living in faith. I mean, you don't know how every month is going to go. You don't
Even when we're planning to come to the States,
you don't do ministry.
we buy the tickets and we don't know, but the Lord provides.
You don't do ministry based on the budget that you have. But you do ministry and you pray that the Lord will provide the budget for the ministry that you're already doing. But I think it's how the Lord wants it to be, at least for us. Because we're always like, we don't know what's going to happen, but we know the Lord is going to show up because he always does. We've seen him do it. And we understand how in the Bible, like he keeps telling the people of Israel, remember what I've done. Don't forget, like go back, tell the stories of what I've done before, because I'm still that person. I did all those things and I will continue doing them. And sometimes we tend to forget. We are doing this and we're living this life because he called us to it. Not because we're good, like I mentioned before, or because what we do is unique, because anybody could do it better than we could. But he has chosen to do this through us, and he will provide. When he calls, he provides. He's that faithful, you know? And so we've learned to trust that and to see that, and we're always amazed to see him
And
do
the
it.
thing that how the people can help. The first thing is praying, because sometimes like when we're talking before, sometimes you feel alone. And another thing, that some people that they are not missionary or they are not pastors, they think they share the gospel is only for us or only for the pastors. No, it's for every single people as believers. We need to share the gospel because the time of grace is gonna be gone at some point. It's gonna come soon.
Well, you've shared a few crazy stories already, but we'd like to ask if you have any specific crazy story that comes to mind. We'd love to hear one or two or three.
Well, we have a couple that we could
have
share.
a lot.
But one of them, Juanpa will share the Champerico one, but I'll share one of my fears, one of our fears when we walked into ministry was, how are we going to raise these kids without having the assurance of a salary?
Can I ask, how many kids do you have?
So we have, in total, we both have 4 kids. My son is 26 now, and Daniela, Samantha, and Maria Paula are our girls. So, but mostly it's been like my son was pretty much like already, you know, getting ready to become an adult and just, but the girls, we were thinking, how are we going to get them through university and school and all these things? Like, that's overwhelming for any parent, you know. While we were missionaries, Daniela started thinking about like university, you know, and like, I want to do music. And in Guatemala, there are not many opportunities for music. You can only study to be a music teacher. And she didn't want to be a music teacher. She wanted to, she's very talented. She loves singing. She writes her own songs, and she wanted to be able to grow in that, you know. And so there was the opportunity for her to come to the U.S. and study in a university here. But we were thinking like, that's impossible. I mean, you know, do you know how much you pay in university in the U.S.? I mean, it's a lot of money. We cannot do that. And she started looking into it. Like,
And she started
I'll
doing
apply.
callings and everything.
I'll apply, and when they say that I don't, I mean, I won't apply. They'll say no, so that'll be the end of it. And we were like, yeah, let's do that. She applied. She was accepted. And then we were like, okay, look into like payments, like look for scholarships, you know?
Yeah.
She's not going to get any scholarships, so we don't have to worry about it. Like, we don't want to be the ones telling them you can't go.
Yeah. But you're just
Yeah.
telling her, look.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Go
look
ahead,
into
go
it. Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, Mom, they gave me a scholarship for, I don't know, because I'm international student. Like, wow, that's amazing. How much is that? This amount. I mean, that's not enough. Continue looking, mi amor. I mean, she got to a point where they were offering a 75% scholarship.
Wow.
And then, but then,
Even without we say, nah, but we can pay the 25%,
because that 25% was pretty much like
$3,000
like
a month.
$3,000 a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we don't ever get that amount in support
Yeah.
for our family.
Yeah. Yeah.
We would never be able to get that for you to alone to
Yeah.
pay university. So we said to her, look, if you commit to working and paying the rest, you can go. And we'll support you as much as we can, but we cannot pay for that.
Yeah.
So we thought, she's not going to commit to paying that. Well, she said, I'll do it. I'll do
And she
it.
started talking with somebody at university. And
We said, you can't get a student loan.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
No debt.
Because this is not your country.
Yeah.
You cannot owe another country money. You need to be respectful of, they're giving you this opportunity. They're giving you all this, scholarship, so you need to pay.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. And then when she was finally here, she found out that as an international student, she can't really work outside of campus. And what they pay in campus is like really, really minimum. So
And
she
this-
started freaking out about how she was going to do it.
And not too many hours.
Yeah. So because based on her schedule, right? And so ask us how she's been able to go through university without student debt, without us having to pay. It's been God.
Like people are just giving?
Yes, people give her, or people will say, can you come and sing at our church? And it's not a job, but and they'll give her a donation.
And she adding with
And
that.
she's putting her music on Spotify or on Apple Music, and she's like, Mom, I'm getting $20 a month. And I'm like, that's nothing. But I mean, she's so excited about it, It's been the Lord.
Wow.
We don't even,
How many years has she studied then and been able
she's
to do this?
been for 3 years.
She
This
gonna-
is her last year.
The last year.
For us, it's a crazy story because it's like when we thought it was impossible, and when we thought we didn't want to discourage her and saying, no, you can't go, it's too expensive. The Lord was just opening a door and just pushing her through it, and He has all along. So that's a crazy story for us.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
awesome.
crazy. That is so
Yeah,
cool.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And the champerico is during the pandemic because we start doing, like Wendy said before, like delivering a lot of food bags. And usually like somebody send it to us like this amount of money for this amount of food bags. We have already set up for every single village they want to visit and delivering that. But somebody sent it to us for 110 food, but we don't know where we're gonna take those bags. But somebody called to my dad because my dad is a doctor in Guatemala, but right there is different house doctor here. When he received the call, because they asking for food, he called me. He say, hey, I know that you deliver some food, but I don't know in some point. But that day when we received the money for that 110 food bags, I said, Winnie, I don't know where when send these ones.
Because we wanted, there were villages that needed food.
Sure.
But you can't bring 110 food bags to a village of 200.
Yeah.
You can't say only 110 families are getting a food bag.
And when I try to be
You
wise,
want to make sure that you provide a food bag for each family. You want to be respectful of that.
because a lot of people struggle here came in our country. And before I tell to Wendy, like, I don't want to do for these food bags, and my dad called me that night I say, yeah. How many you say? 110.
Wow.
That's what he said exact.
And when I called the pastor, he sent me the phone number. Okay, you can do it, whatever you do, because I don't know what you do.
Yeah.
My dad said that, and I called the pastor, and the pastor say, I know you wanna call me. I say, why? Because the Lord showed me yesterday in the night how to
He
say,
had
like
a dream.
a dream that he walked into, because they are super near to the beach, and when they're walking, he walked into
On the shore.
on the shore. Uh, it's a lot of fishes going out.
In
And there
his
was,
dream, he saw like the water was bringing fish to the shore, and they were
with the
picking
waves.
up the fish, like provision, you know.
And he said
This
to,
was a local pastor that
Uh-huh,
was
and-
with you? Okay.
But a pastor who lives,
oh wow,
like it's like how many hours? Like 5 hours away,
6 hours away.
6 hours away from where we live. We had not met this pastor
Never.
ever, and he had called his dad just because maybe you know of someone who has help, and he called us, and it was just like such a God thing, We were able to deliver those food bags to that village, and it was a blessing, and they fed us
You
fish, fried fish.
We
And-
deliver only grains.
And we now we try to go back every year, at least once a year, because we have one group, one team that is always willing to raise that amount of money for that amount of food bags, and they're willing to do the trip, which is 5 hours getting there and 5 hours coming back on the same day, just to deliver the food bags and eat the delicious fish that they give us. So it's just how God connected everything. It's just crazy how we had the money for 110 food bags, and then we had the village of 110 families. There's another time also when we had a hurricane hit
Oh yeah.
Guatemala. We were raising support to bring to those villages, but because it was like there were severe flooding, we couldn't bring grains because they couldn't cook it. We had to bring like cans and stuff.
Because they lost everything.
We made food bags and everything, and I remember we specifically knew what villages we were going to provide for. So
And
we
how
had
many bags for every
counted-
single village?
We had counted, like we knew exactly.
Like 5 times or more.
Yes, like we counted them. We were 100% sure that this is the number we had.
Because it's very important
Yes.
to have
Oh,
that
yeah.
number right.
And so he went and they delivered the food bags. And then someone came and said, "There's a
It's
group
a lady.
of people."
It's a lady. They pulled my shirt, and she don't speak Spanish because we had 22 different Mayan languages. I pulled one of a pastor that helped us. That he's a translator. That he's bilingual. He knows that Mayan language and Spanish. And I say what she say, and she asking for food back because they are hungry. They don't have nothing. They don't receive nothing at all. I say, okay, lady, but let me check how many we have because I count like we have like 15 left or 20, I think, some at the most. And how many you say that you are in that community? And she said, we're 45.
45.
Okay, the thing that we can do, let's go. We deliver the food bags, and you can split or share or whatever. And she said, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And we went to the village, like 2 hours during. It's a lot of raining. It's a lot of mud. We get stuck. It's a lot of things to get to that village. And when we stop there, we start passing the food bags
And counting them.
No, no,
You know?
we don't count it.
You didn't-
We
you weren't
passing,
counting?
Just pass them out.
and we pray, and we always say, "This is from the Lord." We are nothing. Just we are like a itty bitty tools.
Yeah.
And always we share the gospel, and they say, "Okay, now you can split or whatever." And she said, "No, everybody has one." Yeah, I have like.
So we
goosebumps.
were like, or either
loaves.
the Lord just multiplied them, or we
Yeah.
are terrible in counting.
I think it's the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
That is so cool.
Praise
And,
God.
and that lady's like weeping.
I'm curious
Oh,
how she got to where you were. If you had to drive 2 hours to get
Yeah,
to
she
where she
walk.
was.
Yeah.
Because she heard there was food, or she
Uh-huh.
was just
Uh-huh.
looking.
She looking, asking for help.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you need to see that mountain and it's super muddy. It's like,
Yes, it's incredible
Yeah.
to meeting a real need and
mhm.
sharing the gospel message as you're doing it. How much does a food bag cost?
$38
$38 for one bag, and that feeds a family for a whole month?
for a couple of weeks.
2.5,
couple of
almost 3
weeks.
weeks, 4 or 5.
Yeah, for a family of 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like 3 weeks.
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible for $38.
Yeah, at least it helps with, I mean, they have a little bit extra, you know, so that means they could, they have more during the month.
Wow.
Well, we're wrapping up on our time here. Went by really fast.
Did, really did.
Well, could you guys leave us with something? You've given great advice for people who are maybe interested in missions, but is there something that maybe you wish you would have known before you became missionaries, or just any type of encouragement or advice you could give to someone who's maybe interested in missions or who is in ministry right now?
I wish, and we've talked about this many times, like I wish we had known that we could make the step, take the step without fear. Because we could have done it before. Many times, and this applies to anything that the Lord is calling you to, because we're so afraid of surrendering a part of ourselves. Like we think if God is asking us to surrender this part of me, then I won't be myself anymore. Or, you know, you just doubt, or you wonder. A lot of people say like, oh, I mean, Christian life must be so boring because there's so many things that you can't do. And I would say, well, you have no idea. This life is not boring at all. I mean, for one thing, we have had the most fun since we became missionaries. It is scary, because as human beings, we want to be able to take a step and know exactly where we're landing. We like to plan things and say, we're going to do this, this is going to work out this way. You know, we like the certainty of knowing what's next. But if we look at the Bible, how God does things, He never lays out a plan for someone. He says, He goes step by step, and He says, leave the land and go, and just go. He doesn't even say go where.
Follow me.
Yes, and that must be so scary. Well, it is scary, but it is so amazing. I mean, He has so much things for us. Like the Bible says, so much greater than our minds could even imagine. And we are so scared of giving up and surrendering ourselves or our life or sometimes even our sin, you know? When He calls and says, like, stop searching in these things, what only I can give you. Sometimes we're so afraid of surrendering those things because we think, I can't live without those things. But He is so much more. And He fulfills our life in ways that nothing on this earth could ever fulfill us, you know? And if we knew that before, we would not be holding on to our past or our life or our sin. We would just be like, I'll go immediately, you know, like your shirt says, I will go now.
Like for me, it's like to see that map. It's like the Lord put in the middle of the ocean and say, you want to trust me or what?
And we can trust Him.
It has been a delight to have you here today and just get to know you more and to hear just the richness of what God has done in your lives and through your lives. I feel really blessed to have been able to hear. And we didn't ask the name of your ministry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so our ministry is called His Works. We do have Facebook, Instagram, and there's also a link where you can go and donate if someone wants to. And it's important why His Works, because we do believe that when God starts to work in us through salvation, when He comes to our life, when when we accept him and accept everything that comes with being his follower, when we surrender fully to him, his work starts something in us. And that the result of that is works, you know?
Faith in action.
It's our faith in action. And so for us, that's why we chose that name for our ministry, because what we do is not what makes us, it's not what saves us.
Right.
But all that, we cannot come and encounter Christ without it transforming our life and wanting us to do actual things for our brothers and sisters who are suffering. And so that's why it's his works. It's his work always. And it's the result of the work in us that produces work in us. So that's why that's the name of our ministry.
Thank you guys so much for listening to Crazy Missionary Stories. If you are listening on Spotify, don't forget to follow us and give us a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. And of course, share it with your friends. Thank you guys for listening. See you next time.